Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be recording the 25 questions tag by Alan over at the Library of Alexandria. I had not prepared for this tag, but I then recorded a first version of this tag that was unusable due to some technical difficulties. So at least now I feel like I know my answers and I can talk about them a little bit more clearly. But it is always a frustrating process. Thankfully, I have not had that happen to me too many times, and hopefully this will be the only re-recording that I have to do of this, but we're going to get back in and re-record those 25 questions. I will link Alan's answers or his video beneath in the description, so if you have not had an opportunity to go and check that out, then you can do so. And this I'm going to try to make as short as possible, so we will get right into it. The first question is, what's your channel about? So if you have just arrived at the channel, or if this video kind of advertised for you and pulled you in, this is a channel where I talk mainly about the books that I am reading. I do cover some bookish topics, just things about reading that interest me, but mostly I talk about the books that I'm reading, and most of the books that I read are fantasy books. There's also some nonfiction thrown in there, some literary fiction, and very rarely some romance as well. So fantasy is the primary focus, and just the experience of being a fantasy fan and a fantasy reader. Number 2 is, how old are you? I am 33, and fun fact, I just turned 33 a couple of weeks ago, and for a week and a half, I was 33 and my dad was 66, so he was exactly double my age, but he also just had a birthday and turned 67. Hopefully he does not mind my shouting his age out into the internet, but I just thought it was cool when our ages kind of overlapped a little bit like that for that short period of time. Number 3 is, what's your relationship status? I have talked about my husband on the channel fairly frequently, so I am in fact married. I have been married for 10 years this year, so our wedding anniversary is in August, and August this year of 2022, we will have been married for 10 years. We were together for, I think, and I was thinking about this the first time I recorded it, I think it was 4 years before that. I think we've been together for 14 years in total, so have been together for a long time, and he is a fantastic husband, very, very helpful with much of what I do here on the channel and just, the rest of life. He made it through the med school years, and if he can make it through those years, then I feel like he is prepared for anything else that is to come. Number 4 is, where did you go, or did you go to college / what is your occupation? So there's a little bit of a hint in the last answer. I did in fact go to university, as we say here in Canada, and I went for a very, very long time. So I just got out of university a couple of years ago and into practice, but I am a psychiatrist. I did a 4-year undergraduate degree in nothing related to medicine. So I did a French language and literature degree with a minor in English Lit. And then I went on to medical school from there. I did 4 years of medical school. When I graduated from medical school, I did a year of general practice, so general residency. I thought I was going to be a family doctor or general practitioner, but that kind of know a little bit about everything did not fit my personality very well, so I decided to continue on and do another 5 years of psychiatry residency. So I am a psychiatrist. I know I've had a couple of people ask on the channel, or ask like in Discord, about whether or not I am a therapist or a psychologist. I am not. I have had a little training in psychotherapy. It's just part of your general psychiatric residency. But I am not a psychotherapist. I am a psychiatrist, which basically just means that I am a physician. I focus mostly on diagnosis and the prescription of medications, and I liaise with psychologists. So they make up a part of the kind of mental health care team that I work within, along with like social workers and occupational therapists and lots of other great health practitioners, nurses, etc. Number 5 is, where are you from? I am from Newfoundland, and I do still live in Newfoundland, but I am from the west coast of Newfoundland, which, not to be biased, I think is one of the prettiest places. I think that Newfoundland is really underrated as a travel destination. It can be hard to live here, so I can understand People who live here usually are like people who have married in here, which is what happened. My dad was from Ontario. He married my mom, who was from Newfoundland, and they moved here. That tends to happen with Newfoundland and the other Atlantic provinces in Canada. They kind of reel you in, but it can be an isolated place to live. It's an island, so it's cut off from other things that can make things a little bit pricier. Accessibility for certain services can be difficult, but it is beautiful. It is a beautiful travel destination. We are lucky to have 2 national parks in our small province. There are 2 UNESCO World Heritage sites. We have the Lansa Meadows site, which is an early Viking settlement. So for any people who like that kind of historical fantasy, it would be a beautiful place to visit. And then we have the Tablelands UNESCO World Heritage site, or I guess Grossmoor, the national park that I grew up in, is a World Heritage site because of the Tablelands mountain structure, which is a place where the Earth's mantle has been pushed up to the surface, and it is very accessible. There are other places in the world where this occurs, but this is one of the most accessible to geologists and people who are interested in geology. So lots of really cool things to visit if you are ever looking for a unique travel destination. This is not sponsored by the Tourism Board of Newfoundland and Labrador, but I just feel like we get overlooked sometimes, even when people come to Canada, and I think that this is a really nice place to visit. What would you have told your 10-year-old self? This is a very long and rambling answer in the first iteration of this video, but to make it a little more brief, I would tell my 10-year-old self to stay the way that you are. I was a really weird kid, very strange, very energetic, very hyper, awkward, not the best with other people. And I feel like I made changes to that to become better at integrating in social situations. And that wanting to improve almost became an obsession with being the best at things. I was a very active athlete, a very studious person. Throughout school, I was involved in like every club, everything that you could potentially be involved with, and had this really unpleasant drive to be the best at everything ever. And it took a long time to let go of that. And I still am way too competitive. I still place too much arbitrary value on accomplishments, but it is something that I have gotten much better at dealing with. And I hope that I'm not passing along to my kids, because it's a lot of pressure to try to put on yourselves. I think when I was younger, people assumed that my parents put a lot of pressure on me, which is not true. I actually, in high school, my parents had to remove me from the house from studying and bring me to the movie theater. And I raged the entire way that we were going because I thought that I might not get 100%. Like, it was, I think back to that time and it's bananas. Like, getting a 99 was like a life-altering occasion. It was nonsensical. It made no sense. None of that matters to anything that I have or have not accomplished in my life. And not to belittle anybody who puts a lot of work into their studies. I think that hard work is admirable. Doing it just so you can be the best, which is ludicrous because you will never be the best at anything. There are billions of us out there. There's always a bigger fish. But it was just this mind whirl that I had been trapped in for a really long time. So I would go back to 10-year-old Sarah and be like, you're going to come full circle with this really weird personality thing. So just continue. Just be you. It'll be okay. Number 7 is tell us about your family. My childhood family, so my biological family, I have my 2 parents who actually live in my home. So they live in an in-law apartment as part of my house, and we're really close. They're very supportive. They've been a huge help. They have our kids lots of times. They take them for a sleepover every weekend. Andrew and I are beyond lucky. We get a lot of individual time despite the fact that we have 2 young kids, and that is all because my parents are here and they are very helpful. I have 2 younger sisters. They are 5 and 6 years younger than me, so I am kind of like older sister to the max. My middle sister is a nurse, and she just had her own baby who's going to turn 1 tomorrow, which is really exciting. And my youngest sister is kind of more of that stereotypical youngest child. You know, parents are more go with the flow the more children they have, and so there was a lot more freedom there. And she's Still in school, she's done a bunch of different programs. She's trying to figure out what it is that she is interested in, but I'm close with both my sisters. I think that they're both awesome. And they both like to read different things. Not as much fantasy as me, but they are into reading as well. And then my family unit, I have my husband, Andrew, who I talked about a little bit earlier, and we have two kids who are 13 months apart. So we have a 7-year-old daughter and a 6-year-old son, and they are delightful. Bright, energetic. They both love books so far. We'll hope that keeps up. Number 8, what's your favorite holiday? My favorite holiday is Christmas. I know that is really, basic mom holiday, but I like it. And it's not even for the cheesy Hallmark, family togetherness. I'm with my family all the time, and I really love that. I love being with my family, but we're always together. It doesn't take Christmas for us to be together. We're very lucky to geographically be close to each other. I like Christmas for the atmosphere. In Newfoundland, there's always snow. It's snowing. I love the Christmas lights. I love the Christmas tree. My birthday is 3 days before Christmas, so I always have that time off. I take it off, and I just like the whole process. The songs, the wrapping, the hanging out, eating snacks, reading a lot of books. It's just a very cozy time of year. It brings back good memories of when I was in university because my sisters were so much younger than me. Christmas was that break where I would come home and we would all be together. My dad worked seasonally, so he was always off in the wintertime. So Christmas really felt like a vacation for everyone. It was like this little perfect bubble of time, and I continue to really enjoy that. You have an unlimited budget. What is your dream vacation? I have a lot of dream vacations. I really like to travel, and I had been really excited because I spent so much time in med school. I had both my kids during med school. My husband was and remains a stay-at-home dad, so finances were very tight throughout all of med school. And when I got to the end, I was like, yes, I'm getting to the end. I'm going to be working. This is going to be great. We are going to go on trips. My daughter is obsessed with animals. She has wanted to go to Yellowstone National Park for as long as she has known what it is. And we have planned to go to Yellowstone when I graduated. That was going to be the med school graduation or the residency graduation trip. And obviously, we have not been able to travel. So that has been really sad. But our top travel destinations are Yellowstone. We would love to go there. I would love to go to Australia, which is probably if I had an unlimited budget, that would definitely be the most expensive trip to take because it's so far away. The flights, if I have an unlimited budget, you can be sure that we are flying first class during this trip, this long overnight flight to Australia. And I've always wanted to go to Australia. I thought that it would be my my honeymoon trip, but I was never a big want to get married person. Didn't have any dreams of planning a wedding, get all those details. I don't like people looking at me. I did not ever really want to have a big wedding, but I did want to have a honeymoon or just a trip, I guess. And Andrew and I got married. We decided on a Thursday that we were going to get married, and we got married on that Saturday because he did really want to get married. And I thought, well, in order to not make people angry because they weren't invited because I didn't want a big wedding, and in order to save myself from any planning, I thought, well, if we get married this weekend, we'll just wear what we have. We'll buy whatever, ring we like at the store, and a friend will come and take our pictures, and it'll be great. And it was. It's one of my best memories. It was a beautiful day. It was exactly the way that both of us would have wanted it. I don't like that spectacle. Andrew is very, very shy. It was the perfect 10-person backyard wedding for us as a couple. But unfortunately, because it happened so quickly, we did not have time to plan a trip to Australia. And we had already had a trip planned to Disney World. So that became our impromptu honeymoon. That had nothing to do with the question that was asked, but I apologize. Name your biggest pet peeve. I have a couple of pet peeves. I have a lot of driving pet peeves, as many people can relate to, I'm sure. I get inordinately angry when driving if people don't signal, if they cut me off, if they do dangerous things while driving. I do not understand the appeal of reckless driving. I don't get it. people in these big loud cars who do these silly things. Like, where do you have to go and what do you have to do that is so important that you will plow someone else off the road to do it? Oh, it makes me so angry. That is probably my biggest pet peeve. Otherwise, after having lived with kids for such a long time, I'm great at tuning things out. There's not a lot of things that irritate me. I feel like I'm pretty go with the flow, which, earlier years, Sarah was decidedly not. Number 11, what book changed your life? I did a whole video about this, about the different books that have had a big impact on my life. I'll see if I can find it. It's one of my older videos, so I'm a bit reluctant to even go back and watch it myself, but hopefully it's not too bad. I talked about a bunch of the different books that had a big impact on me. I would say in terms of my reading life, the book that had the biggest impact on me was probably The Hobbit. It's the book that led me to this kind of lifelong love of reading. It probably influenced what I did in university, the friends that I made, the activities that I enjoyed. It is one of my earliest and, best memories is listening to that for the first time. So The Hobbit is probably the book that had the biggest tangible influence on my life. But there have been lots of different books that have come in at different times and accomplished various goals. Number 12, when Alan did this, he expressed his ire at this question, and I too think that it's really strange and out of place. But this is, what simple invention improved the world? There are many simple inventions that may improve the world. I'm just going to go ahead and say the printing press. This is a book channel. We're all book nerds. We need to appreciate the fact that we have these books in paper and that they are accessible and can be mass produced. I don't know if anybody else can hear it, but Andrew took the kids to my parents' apartment to play video games while I record this, and something intense is happening. So if you can hear those shouts, I apologize. Number 13, what are your favorite movies and TV shows? I love lists. So questions like this are always easy to answer because I have a running list of all these things at all times. My favorite 3 movies of all time are The Princess Bride. It is the movie that I have watched the most times, hands down. I've loved it since I was a kid. Pride and Prejudice, the 2005 version. Feel free to fight me about which one is best, but I will horrify you by saying it is actually the only one that I have seen because I don't feel like I need any other Pride and Prejudice in my life. That is how much I love it. And number 3 would be The Lord of the Rings. What fantasy lover doesn't love the Lord of the Rings adaptation? TV shows, I will pick a favorite regular and animated show. So my favorite TV show of all time is Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I've watched it countless times. I love it. I watched it religiously when it was coming out on TV, and I rewatch it all the time now. And for favorite animated or anime, I guess, is Cowboy Bebop. That is probably my all-time favorite. And personally, I think a great jumping in point if you have not watched any anime, if you maybe don't like some of the typical conventions that you see in anime. It's got a killer soundtrack and it's just an awesome show all around. Number 14, describe yourself using 3 fictional characters. There was a lot of and hawing when I did this the first time I recorded it. But I have settled on, I feel like, and I said this in the last time, every smart girl who grew up at the time when I grew up identified with Hermione Granger. It's so silly that it's barely an answer now. So that's not technically my answer, but I feel like she's the one that everyone, if someone else was going to pick a book character, pick a random pop culture figure, I'm sure that's what they would say. The other characters that I feel like I personally identified with a lot, the first one would be Meg Murray from A Wrinkle in Time, that series of books by Madeleine L'Engle. She is a young girl she is in a family with a lot of siblings. She's very close with her siblings. She is a smart but awkward teenage girl. She's not really sure how to relate to the other people around her. She's got a little bit of a temper, especially when it comes to people not being fair or people treating her family poorly. And she's just a really interesting character. I think she grows a lot as she ages. Some of the later books, they follow people at various points in time. And definitely a character I related to a lot when I was a teenager. And when I look back, I'm like, yes, there was a lot of Meg in me in my early years. A character that is new to me, is in a book that I read last year, is the character of Jenny. from the book Dragon's Bane by Barbara Hambley. So this is a book, and the character Jenny is a magic user. She's a practitioner of magic who is also a wife and mom. And she had never planned to be a wife or a mom. That's not something that she ever envisioned for her life. She wanted to be a sorceress, or I don't know if they're called witches, wizards, sorcerers in that book, but someone who uses magic. And she wanted to really perfect that art and kind of attain the highest levels that she could. But she falls in love, she decides to have a family, and so she is caught in between this wanting to be as good as she can be and also really loving her family and feeling like she's not really meeting the obligations of either. And while I don't think that I succumb to mom guilt, which is very common in today's society, something that I talk about a lot with my patients, it is a lot of pressure, and it is difficult to be a working mom insofar that society expects you to be great at all of the motherly things and then also excel at all of the work things. And there's just not enough time. You don't have enough energy to be the best at both at all times. So obviously having a strong support system has been very helpful in that for me. But that was a very interesting fantasy character that when I read it, I felt like I could relate to a lot of the feelings that she was having. And I thought that was something that, I've read some mother characters in fantasy, but that one, for a book that was written in the 80s, really captures that struggle, I think, of a lot of modern working parents, and especially modern working mothers. So she would definitely be on the list as well. I would love to say someone cool. Like, I would love to say Orca from The Shadow of the Gods by John Gwynne, who is like this complete badass warrior mom who is going to like mess you up if you hurt her family. I feel like on the inside I want to be Orca, but am I? No. Sadly, I am not. Yes, I'm making sure I'm on the right side. What was your dream job? My dream job my entire life was to be a field zoologist. I wanted to travel the world, to live in, the woods, the jungle, the savannah, wherever, and study animals, be off the grid, devote my life to figuring out more about them, helping to conserve their habitat, to save them, to, direct my energies into those things. But even though this was a lifelong dream and something that I strongly considered when I was going to university, I had been accepted into a zoology program. In the end, I decided to take a different route, mostly because I grew up in a family that did not have a lot of money. There's a lot of financial instability. Luckily, there was not a lot of interpersonal instability. I had very kind, doting, loving parents. They got along well with each other. There was no family turmoil, but as I aged and could recognize some of the financial constraints, that was a huge stressor for my parents and a very limiting aspect of our life in general. And so I always had this kind of fear of not having a stable source of income and the difficulties that could come with that. So unfortunately, prudence won out over that kind of like passion. But I am in a field of study that I really like. I really love my job. I am happy to go to work every day. And so I feel very thankful for that. I don't think that the current life that I have is very conducive to being, in Indonesia for 8 months of the year. So I am happy with the way that things turned out. Number 16, if magic was real, what spell would you learn first? Animal communication, hands down. I don't know if that is like the most practical answer. Alan's answer, for example, was teleportation, which would be fantastic. It would be great to be able to go from one place to the other without the need for all of that travel. I don't like flying. It makes me really nervous. So that would be very helpful for me. But if I could talk to a bat, I'm going to trade that for being able to teleport places. And that might be a silly choice, but that is the choice that I'm going to make. Sorry, had to take a coughing pause. I should have brought some water, but I did not. But we're getting close to the end. It's okay. Number 17, a favorite childhood memory. One of my favorite childhood memories is the day that I got my dog, Duchess. So I grew up in a family that always had pets. We always had like hamsters, rabbits, dogs, whatever. But we had gone a period of time, like a couple of months without having a dog. And I don't know if this was a conversation that my parents had been having without me, but there was no talk of a dog on the horizon. I was not expecting a new dog. I was not expecting a pet. And I remember this very vividly. It was a summer day and it was really hot. And it doesn't get really hot in Newfoundland very often. Like the summers are mild. And so when there's a really hot day, you capitalize on that. And I really wanted to go swimming. My parents were very strict about water. I was not allowed to go swimming alone or even with my friends. There had to be parental supervision. So as soon as my dad got home, I beelined from my babysitter's house to the car. I was like, we need to go swimming. It's so hot. Let's go swimming. Let's go swimming. And he was like, I don't think you want to go swimming. And I was affronted in the way that only children can be when a parent feels that they understand what it is that you need. And I was like, what do you mean? I want to go swimming. And he was like, well, maybe you should look in the back seat first. And I was like, what? So I looked in the back seat, and wrapped up in this little cocoon of blankets was the most perfect little puppy. And I did not go swimming. And I was so happy to not be swimming. I named her Duchess, and she was the first dog that I had that was my dog, like for me specifically. Sorry, game time is still really intense over there. But I still remember the day that I got her very vividly, and it is definitely one of the best memories that I have from childhood. Favorite social media platform? If YouTube counts as a social media platform, then I will pick that. I don't spend a lot of time on social media. Facebook is for like updating family members with pictures of my kids. I don't use Twitter, not for any particular reason. I just don't feel like I have a lot of cool things to tweet about. I do use Instagram, and I have a personal one and I have a BookTube one, so that one's fine as well. I'm not very good at keeping up with social media. I have too many things that I'm trying to do all at the same time, but I do enjoy Instagram. Number 19, if you could pick any book character to spend the day with, who would it be? Night Eyes. 100%. I want to spend a day with Night Eyes, and I want to be able to communicate with Night Eyes. I see a lot of people. I talk to a lot of people. My whole day is talking to people. And then I come home and I have two of the most talkative children on planet Earth. So there's always people talking at me. If I could go into the woods and spend a day with a wolf and just run around, do outdoorsy, wolfy things, absolute bliss. Number 20, what's your spirit animal? So I'll answer this a little bit differently. I will say that I always really loved the His Dark Materials series by Philip Pullman. And in that series, people have their demon, which is kind of like this animal representation of their soul. And so I put a lot of thought into what my demon would be. And there's always that struggle. Like if you are truly honest with yourself, there's usually a discrepancy between the animal you want to identify with and the animal that you love and the one that you probably are. So I love mongooses. Love mongooses, and I love bats. Anybody who's been on my Discord knows that I love bats, but I also really love mongooses. And I love mongooses because they're so wild and unrestrained, and they will mess things up that are like 10 times their size, and there's just like no backing down for a mongoose. And I feel like I would like to be a mongoose, but I'm not particularly mongoose-like. I am assertive, I think, but not that powerful, and I would like to be. I also really like bats, especially flying foxes, but I'm not nocturnal. I don't feel like I'm particularly bat-like. Bats like to hang out in colonies. I like to be by myself. Like if we're being honest, I'm probably more of like a field mouse. I like to be cozy in my little hole. I like to eat some cheese, scavenge for snacks, be quiet, not spend a lot of time around others, have lots of little children trailing along after me at various points. So that's probably what I would be, but on the inside, I am a mongoose. Number 21, what old person thing do you do? The old person thing that I do is I believe with the utmost conviction that children's television programming was way better when I was young than it is right now. And I understand on some purely intellectual level that I was a child. And so I loved these things with the passion that only a child can. But I am never more thankful that my husband is a stay-at-home parent than when I have to hear modern children's programming because it drives me bananas. Like, I cannot tolerate it for more than like 30 seconds at a time. And luckily our kids are kind of grown out of that, and we were not a huge screen time family. Our kids didn't ever watch a lot of TV, which is not something that we need to get into, but there wasn't a lot of exposure to TV shows. But what little you get, guaranteed, if you have children, you can back me up on this, whatever annoys you the most is what they will love the most. It's like they have a sixth sense. It's their let's annoy our parents sense. And even if they are the sweetest, most wonderful, most well-behaved children on the planet, they will love that toy that makes that annoying sound, or that TV show with that completely repugnant main character, or that animal that you have a deathly phobia of. That will be their favorite animal. It's just the way of the world. You need to accept it. That is how it happens. But that's my old person trait. Number 22, do you have a hidden talent? This is actually an icebreaker at a lot of really horrible, cringeworthy work get-togethers that everybody hates. So my answer for this has always been the same, and I will stand by it. I am amazing at even saying this sounds hilarious, at putting peanut butter on toast in the exact right proportion, like spreading it to the exact place that it needs to be, like the exact right thickness, the right amount, so that it's just enough peanut butter, but not too much peanut butter, that it's just perfect. And I don't know why. I didn't even really realize that you could mess up peanut butter toast. I really love peanut butter, so like as an aside, I love peanut butter. It is one of my favorite foods. I eat so much peanut butter. Natural peanut butter, not natural, crunchy, smooth, whatever. I love peanut butter in treats, as a condiment in many ways. I eat it on apples is probably the most frequent way that I eat it. But when I stayed over with my husband for the first time when we were dating, and he was so kind enough to make me peanut butter toast, I was really happy because it was very sweet. Have your peanut butter toast. Here you go. Thank you. He did such a bad job at buttering the toast. And I don't think anybody else had had peanut buttered a piece of toast for me in a really long time. My dad was a big breakfast guy, so he always made me like a full breakfast every morning of my life. I had like eggs and toast and all that kind of stuff, like buttered toast, not peanut buttered toast. So I couldn't remember the last time that anyone had peanut buttered a piece of toast for me. And you can't complain when someone's being kind and delivering you breakfast in bed. You can't be like, take that back and fix it. I could, like, a couple months later, I was happy to tell him to take it back and fix it. But in those early days, I couldn't be like, no, your peanut butter skills aren't up to snuff. There probably would be no marriage at this point if that was my reaction. But I am proud of my peanut buttering skills. You can clearly tell I don't have any other talents. Like, I can't sing, I can't draw, I can't dance, I can't do anything cool. But I can peanut butter a piece of toast. I bet you're glad that you made it all the way to this answer. Number 23. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? I don't know. I am not, despite my love of organization, I am not a big life plan person. I like to just see what is happening. As I said earlier in this video, I decided to get married on a Thursday, and that happened on a Saturday. So I do not like the feeling of pressure of planning out every moment of my life. The biggest unanswered question of our family life right now is where we are going to live long term. So I really love my job. I work at a rural hospital, so we live in a small town. And I really like that because it affords you a huge breadth of practice. There's a lot of different things that you get to do that you don't really get to do in bigger centers because there are sub-specialists who can handle those things. And so you don't get to see the kind of weird and wacky presentations because they go to these other specialists. And so I really like that about rural medicine. You get to do a little bit of everything. The atmosphere of a hospital in a rural situation is a lot different because people are very grateful to have you as a part of their community. A lot of small communities are underserviced. They don't have the staff that they need. And so when you move to one of these communities, there is just an air of appreciation, not from the patients, because like that's paternalistic and icky, but I just mean like from the administrative staff at the hospital, from the colleagues that you have. Like everyone is very thankful to have you as a part of the team. which is a really nice feeling because you want to feel valued in your workplace. So I really like that part about rural medicine. But in order to come to a rural town, we left my sisters, who both live in the same city, all of our friends from when I went through med school and who we spent time with throughout residency. So it can be very lonely. And I think that the way that the world is right now has just kind of increased that isolation and loneliness. And my husband and I are very introverted people. We don't spend a lot of time with other people. And so it has probably been a little bit easier, but it's enough that even we are like, you know, we miss our friends. It would be nice if every couple of weeks we could see them and we could do this and we could, you know, do the things that we miss doing. So that's our biggest unanswered life question. So in 5 years, will we still be here, or will we have moved back to be closer with the people that we care about? I'm not really sure, but that is what we have to figure out. And then the last question, I should have fix this because the last question is share an item of significance. And I didn't have anything here last time. And so when I took a break and went and had some water and bemoaned the fact that I lost all that footage, I should have grabbed something. But one item that I own that is of great personal value to me is a journal that I have been keeping for a number of years. And it's not a journal, like I don't journal as in like, dear journal, today I blah, blah, blah. I believe blah, blah, blah. I don't find that particularly therapeutic because I'm too much of a perfectionist and I hate the way sometimes that it's written. And if I go stream of consciousness, then I'm like, oh, what terrible sentence structure. Like I just can't get past that. Work in progress. But I do keep a kind of combination scrapbook / journal. And I do really like recording like fun family days or quotes from the kids or little like questionnaires that we have asked them over the years to see how their answers have changed. A photo from like just a really nice day at the park, like little things that I would like to remember and commemorate are all gathered in this one journal. So, you know, if there was an item that I needed to save from the house that is not my pet or my children, then that would be the thing that I would go for and that I would grab. And I will try to pick out a couple of pages to like pop up there just to show you what I mean by that. But that is my item of significance. The very last question on this is tag some people. I am going to tag, I know Andrew from Andrew's Visually Reads does a lot of tags. So if he has done this, I apologize, but I will tag him because I know he likes tags. And I always feel bad. I don't want to feel like I'm forcing someone into doing a tag. I will tag Yolene because I love her channel and she does tags sometimes. So maybe she will enjoy doing this one. And I will tag Abby because I don't know if Abby has done this or not, but I feel like Abby has a really cool life and she goes to lots of cool places. And I would just like to hear her answers for this. So those are the 3 people that I am tagging. If you stuck along to the end of this very long video, then thank you. Hopefully these were not very book focused, so hopefully it was not too boring or anything. And I will see you with another video soon. Bye.